you guys are here for some super breaking news, and I'm kind of gonna let Justin lead the dance here because it's what's up, MGAL4 Productions, Duplessis versus Chimaev. Let's go, come on, let's go. That fight has to happen, International Fight Week. But anyways, so I'm gonna let Justin lead the dance. So just to give you guys a quick rundown, and then I'm gonna kind of turn it over to Justin. And we're going to try and be as conscientious as possible as talking about this, because this has something to do with his gym. And this has something to do with something that's been grabbing major headlines this week, partially because there's not a huge fight coming up this weekend, I feel like, or even next weekend. So everybody's focusing on Sean Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis. And we now have a new feud that is unraveled, and that is Sean Strickland versus Eric Nicksick. And if you guys are not familiar, that's Justin's gym, Xtreme Couture. This is where Eric Nicksick is the head coach, I believe, or actually Dennis is the head coach, but Eric Nicksick is the manager of the gym. And Sean Strickland is a fighter out there. He's teammates.
They're like co-head coaches, essentially.
Co-head coaches. And so what's up, Tehran? So Tehran, yeah, we're about to get deep on some stuff here, and Justin has had clearance to talk about this, so this is not him sharing stuff out of pocket from the gym, but there's a side to this story that hasn't come out yet in terms of the Strickland versus Eric Nicksick beef. And I think a lot of people are, and you even jumped. Justin made a video jumping to Sean Strickland's defense earlier in the week. So did I. I just didn't really understand. Mine was more from the criticism that other people were giving him. But also I was a little perplexed as to why Eric said what he said public facing on Ariel's show about Sean Strickland. So I'll turn it over to Justin, and Justin's going to give you guys the full breakdown, because there's more to the story from Eric's perspective in particular, and we can just kind of talk it over and get you guys' thoughts and comments. So Justin, I'll let you take it away.
Sure. So just quick little backstory, the history of me and Eric Nicksick. I've known him for 15 years. He's one of the first guys I worked with at Xtreme Couture. He wasn't even a coach. He was actually, when Eric came to the gym, he was a civilian. He was there to learn and take classes. I was just taking grappling classes. And Eric, incredible athlete. He was a college football player. So he kind of transitioned. He has that really great, strong mentality. He's very confident in the way he walks, the way he talks. He's an incredible leader at the gym. So, I've known him for a long time. Like I said, 15 years. We've worked together, and this is a personal friend of mine. This isn't a guy that he's in the gym. He is my boss. But I mean, we've partied together before. We hang out. We've hung out before. Like, I've worked for him for 15 years. He's cornered me in a bunch of fights. So I just want to give you the breakdown of our personal relationship, or at least a quick overview. Now, moving forward to this fight, I know how Eric is. And when I saw the things he said about Sean, I was just blown away, because when Sean won the title, I sent you the video this morning, a very emotional felt video from Eric, essentially talking about how he gave Sean a family and gave Sean a purpose and gave him leadership roles at the gym. And he's praising Sean of how great he was or is, and how he's making this turnaround and this and that. Like, really, like I said, you see the video, it's a very emotional video. Now, moving forward, since then, he's lost twice to DDP. The second time, very lackluster performance. Eric goes on the Errol Hawani show, talks about how his performance was uninspiring, and just like it was a total 180 from the original video of when he won the championship. And I just was really caught off guard and kind of like, weird about it. I was like, man, there has to be something between the lines. And then Eric talks about how he might cut ties working with Sean. And me being a fighter, it's, there's been points in my career where I feel that friends, I'm going to say family, but friends, supporters, I lose and they abandon me, man. When you win in MMA, everybody wins. Your coaches win, your fans win, your friends win, everybody wins. But when you lose alone. And I have felt abandoned in losses before. And, when I saw the video of Eric, like I said, talking about Sean's performance, talking about how he doesn't want to coach me anymore, I felt that Eric was essentially abandoning him, man, and it really hit a nerve with me. And as you guys saw in my video, I don't trash talk Eric. If anything, I say how much I love him, and I just didn't agree with what he was saying. Now, a lot of people at the gym, I don't want to say any names because it's nobody's business but theirs, but a lot of people at the gym, high-level fighters that you guys would know, I guess, are upset with me, going against the grain, pretty much saying fuck Justin for saying the things he did. With that being said, A lot of the gym agrees with me. So it's a 50-50 split. Now, as soon as we posted, I shouldn't say as soon as, but within a reasonable time of posting this video, within a couple hours, I received a lot of praise from guys because they think and they're feeling like I was coming out to go against Eric. And that wasn't what I was trying to do. It says we have a podcast. I have an opinion. I don't have to agree with Eric. I don't, and I don't have to, man. It doesn't, even as a friend, me and Huzefa, listen, Huzefa is a rule follower, guys. Like when we were in Montana, like he didn't even want to let me wanted me to drive his rental because on the agreement, like, hey, you know what I mean? And that we don't have to agree on this stuff, but we're not going to fight over it. And he doesn't get mad and that's just a silly small example, but we don't agree on a lot of things, even when it comes to fighting, we don't agree, but we don't fight over it. And we respect each other's opinions. And that's kind of what I was hoping for. Like, hey, respect my opinion, although against the grain. Now, immediately Eric texted me. He sent me the video and told me that, some people are upset about this. I call him immediately because I'm a man. And, so we had a 15-minute conversation and, he goes on, he says, hey man, like, I wish you would have called me before putting this video out because there's internal information that you don't know in the situation. And I kind of assume that.
And Justin, before we go further, let's not talk about the specific numbers just to keep that private, but you can say generally. Okay, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
And I don't want to, talk about specific, even though I was given permission to, but I'm not going to out of the privacy of, argument's sake. I don't, and I don't want to by mistake say the wrong number. And, so I'm just going to keep it broad.
Yeah.
So, going into that fight, they had talked about payment and how much, Eric thought he was deserved to get paid and how much Sean wanted to pay and offered to pay. And I guess there was a payment dispute somewhere along the lines. And again, I'm hoping maybe we can get Eric on the show and he can explain much deeper because he hasn't come out publicly and talked about it. And if we could have him on the 10-7 for the first time to talk about it, I think it would be awesome, especially given me and Eric's history. So he talks about a payment dispute. And then he talks about getting back and, Sean, I guess, the week after his fight, told Eric that, he didn't even really want to fight. He didn't care that he was fighting for the belt. Essentially, he was fighting for a paycheck and, that he was unmotivated. He didn't want to be there and this and that. And so when Eric also said, like, I only want to work with world champions. Well, I think that text was taken out of context as well. I think what he meant was, and Eric also said he regretted going on the Ariel Helwani. He said to me on the phone that he regretted going on the Ariel Helwani show and saying what he said because of all this backlash he's getting. But I don't think he meant like, I only want to work with world champions because you're kicking 99.9% of the fighters out of the gym because 99.9% of the fighters are never going to win a world championship at the gym, at the pro level in the UFC. You're talking about 1 out of 100 guys, 1 out of 1,000 guys. So for you to say that you only want to work with world champions, I thought was a little ridiculous, but I think it was taken out of context. Yeah. I think he meant that I only want to work with guys that strive to be a world champion, and I'm pretty sure that's what he meant because
I bet you, just to jump in, I bet the way that I am thinking about it now, I think what he meant to say is I want to work with people who want to work with me and want to give it their all. That type of thing. I think it came out the wrong way. Yeah.
And I agree. And there are some times that, being on a podcast, like, you say something. I mean, it happens on this one all the time. Like I'll misspeak. And then after the show, I'll be like, oh shit, I said this, but it's not that, or, I mean, maybe I made it sound different than what it was. And I regret it. And I know he feels that way. He told me he regrets the things he said. He wish he hadn't said those things. Regardless.
Let me just jump in one more thing too, just to give it a little bit more context. I'm going to say this quickly and then I'm going to pass it back over to you. Is I think that one of the issues, maybe why he felt frustrated, is what it sounds like to me, is this dispute over the payment or what was fair or whatnot. It never got resolved. So it didn't get resolved properly. Like they didn't have it's what it sounds like to me. They never fully got it resolved. So it sounds like there was some resentment or anger underneath the surface. And not to excuse it, but saying I think that may have be what caused that frustration to build up and let him vent on the air on Ariel's show, like the biggest show, and that's what caused all this. But anyways, let me turn it back over to you.
So Eric sent Sean a very long text message. It's like 5 paragraphs talking about, payment and so on and so forth. And again, I mean, I know what was talked about, but it's not the public's business. We'll just keep it at this. He sent him a very long text message wanting to talk about, their agreement. and Sean ghosted him. And that obviously would be very upsetting if I'm calling somebody to talk about what I think I deserve and what I'm being paid, and they just don't answer. That would fucking piss me off. And imagine Eric had some emotion about that. And then to go on, Sean saying he didn't want to fight. He was only fighting for a paycheck. Well, you got to look at Eric's personal life. He has a family in Vegas. He has 100 other fighters that he works with. He has a gym that he manages. So for him to take off the time to put into Sean, putting in an 8-week fight camp, working with him for 8 weeks, then going to Australia for 2 weeks, just for a guy that doesn't even care about winning or lose or care about winning, he felt that not only was he shorted financially, he was taking time away from his other fighters that do want to compete seriously, and he wasn't getting paid what he thought he deserved. All right. And I totally understand that, man. And I can understand now why he would come out and say the things he did out of frustration and so forth. So at the end of the day, there is I said in the video, there's things between the lines that I don't know about and the public doesn't know about. I made that clear in the video. And those are the things. It was a financial dispute. And, Eric was upset that, he's taking time away from people that deserve his time, mostly his family, for X amount of like 2 weeks. He was in Australia for 2 weeks. Now, I mean, Eric has an incredible family. He has several daughters. He has 2 daughters, and he has a son. Beautiful wife, beautiful family. And he takes time away from them to come help you win and become a world champion. And you don't even want to be a world champion. So that's kind of how that was. Now, moving forward, the backlash that Eric got is freaking insane. He's had to shut down his Instagram account because of all the hate messages he got. Not only has Eric had to shut down his personal Instagram account, his eldest daughter, who I think she's like 15 or 16, has had to shut her personal Instagram account too, because now that his was shut down, they are attacking his family, and MMA fans are attacking his 15, 16-year-old daughter. Maybe she's older, maybe she's younger. Regardless, he has 2 young girls and he has a young boy. And, now he's dealing with all this. And, really, me and Eric have our disputes, as any relationship does. But guys, like, I got to go to defense for Eric now, man. Like, there's more to the story than people know. There's more to the story than that he's disclosed. And I'm hoping that if he wants to come out and talk about it, I hope he does it with our show. Whether he does it with our show or a bigger show, it's going to be on him. I'm going to ask him to. But guys, there was things between the lines. The reason Eric said the things he said was over a financial dispute. He didn't. Again, I'm reiterating. He didn't feel that he was, compensated accordingly. And, he doesn't want to work with somebody that doesn't want to give it their all. And to an extent, I understand that.
So that's kind of what we want to start off with, guys. Again, this is something that nobody's talked about. I think a lot of people suspected that there was some friction in the relationship. Something was happening that wasn't being disclosed. This is the answer.
And this is the thing, guys. This isn't speculation.
Right.
This is fact. I talked to Eric on the phone for 15 minutes yesterday, and him and I are going to talk for a lot longer today because we have more stuff to talk about, which that stuff doesn't matter. But the fact is, this is straight from the horse's mouth. This isn't, I heard on MMA Joey, I heard on MMA Fat Guru, whatever. This is straight from Eric's mouth to me over the phone. And like I said, when we talk later, maybe I'll. And Eric gave me permission to disclose these details. He said I could fucking expose the text. I'm not going to do that. I don't feel comfortable doing that. The success of our show, and guys, I'm about to disconnect from the internet because I got to go. This is my last high school wrestling practice of the year, so bear with me as I drive. But I don't feel comfortable exposing that kind of personal information, especially publicly. But you guys have to understand and believe me when I say that there's more to the story of why Eric said the things he said and has done the things he did. And, I really hope that exposing some of this information, it can put him and his family to rest in the sense of the harassment that him and his daughters are getting, man. Like,
that's crazy.
Like we talk about MMA fans. I'm about to disconnect. Just give.
Yep. No worries. Yeah, the hate that his daughters are getting, if anybody's ever been the victim of some sort of like cyberbullying or whatnot, which I experienced in the last year, it doesn't sound as bad from the outside looking in, and you're like, oh, whatever, it's some messages, somebody harassing you. It's not, it messes with you. And for his daughter to be in high school and have to deal with a bunch of hate messages and have to shut her Instagram down, I don't think people fully understand what that can be like, especially for a female, God forbid, and a high school female. Like, that's insane. People may not realize, they're like, hey, we want to defend Sean, and we're gonna attack anything and anyone related to Eric Nicksick. I get that. Like, you're venting your frustration, that you're not realizing the damage that you're causing and creating. You might be scaring his daughter for life, literally causing her trauma that's going to take months or even years to get out of. So I just put it out there. I know it's none of you guys, but it just blows my mind the way that people are so hateful. Oh, one thing, Louisa, can you, for the end of the show, can you pull up like 4 or 5 funny comments? Look, we're going to do the comments thing again. By the way, at the end of the show, I got some really funny and like just scathing comments on our channel. And I think it's just going to continue to grow as the channel gets bigger. So we got to take time and pause and laugh at some of that stuff. It's really good. But anyways, yeah, so that's the story. That's the real deal. You haven't heard it anywhere else. So this is breaking news on our show, but hope you guys appreciate that, and let us know what you think about this beef and as it's evolving. And I just hope it gets settled for both parties, whatever it is. If they split, if they go their separate ways, that things settle down and we see Sean back in there sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so, and as the situation develops, like I said, I'm going to talk to Eric today at some point, and maybe he'll disclose more information that he's okay with me talking about. Again, I want to have an honest podcast. I want the 10-7 to be an honest show. There is so much gossip and MMA news in the gym that I hear every single day that I do not talk about. It's none of my business. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to expose people. I don't want to be these piece of shit podcast guys that catch a rumor or catch information and be like, oh, breaking news. I want our podcast to be the first, and they don't care who it hurts. You know what I mean? They just want to get the numbers and the clicks, and I don't want our podcast to be like that. The only reason I'm disclosing this information is because I was given permission to. And everybody needs to know that. Listen, there are rumors in the gym every single day. I work with Sean Strickland, Eric Nicksick, Ray Cepho, Chris Curtis, Brad Tavares, Dan Ige. Like, I know about injuries that are going on in the gym. I know about gym going on. I know about fighter feuds, and I'll never ever speak out to hurt somebody to benefit this podcast in any circumstance, including even if I don't get along. Listen, me and Eric have had a long-term relationship. We don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but I would never expose him, you know, in against for the betterment of our podcast. And I want everybody watching to know that and understand that.
100%. And I feel the exact same way. You know, one of the reasons why I don't want to get into the numbers too is because if we share the numbers, you'll be able to reverse engineer and calculate what Sean made for the fight, which I don't want that either, because that's his information. That's not for us to share.